Hey, Morgan KJ here. This is going to be a time lapse of this piece here. It comes up to about 50 hours or more, and I'm not really sure why. I don't know. That's just how it goes sometimes. Anyway, disclaimer, this is a bit scuffed. I've only recorded the painting part since OBS lags my computer too much for line drawing, and I may have also missed a few small blocks of painting where I forgot to hit the record button. There's still a lot of footage, and I'll try and give some insight on what I'm thinking about in the process. Alright, here we go. Starting off with the thumbnail. I didn't do too many thumbnails for this piece, just a couple. I don't normally do that many, actually. These days, I normally only do about 4 or 5, and then I'll combine a few of them. I've already done a video on thumbnailing. Settle on one of them, and that'll give me an idea of what the final piece is going to look like. The part that I've skipped is just there's a line drawing there, and I'll go block in the base color for everything. So like the dress, the skin, the hair, etc., etc. I'll just put in not a shadowed color, not like a deep shadow, but definitely not lit. Just kind of somewhere in between, like as if it's just the ambient light hitting that object. That's the color that I'll put in. And this is not set in stone. I'll constantly tweak the colors. These days, I think the most important thing is to trust my eye. If it looks wrong, it is wrong, and just play around with colors, with values. With hue saturation, adjustments, with curves, until it looks right. So here I'm thinking, where is the light? Where are the lights coming from, plural? Depending on your light setup. Here I've got one strong warm light coming from the top down, a little bit behind the characters, and a little bit to the right. That's the light that's hitting the top of her arm, that's hitting her chest, that's hitting the side of her skirt. So that's the key light, I think is the technical term for it. And then I've got a fill light coming from the front. It's a low intensity, not a very harsh light, quite a soft light coming from the front. That's a little bit cooler, a little bit bluer. That's what's causing those reflections, like her leather stockings. Is that what it's called? Stockings? I don't know. Anyway, and on the metal, anything metallic is gonna pick up that front light, and it provides a little bit of ambient light for her face. You can see the light. It's a pretty typical lighting setup, I think. In photography, is you have one key light, on maybe 2 fill lights. Here I've kind of just got 1 fill light. I'm starting on the face, and usually once I've started on the face, I want to try and finish it as quickly as possible, because if I start on a face and then I just leave it there, and it's not finished, at least my brain kind of gets used to looking at it, even if it's wrong, even if it looks bad. So I try and crank it out as quickly as possible, get it to a pretty finished state, as quickly as possible. But it doesn't look like that I'm doing that here. Okay, so I'm just doing some other random stuff, I guess. But yeah, as a general rule of thumb, I would highly recommend once you start touching the face, get it done as quickly as possible, because your brain will make you think that it looks right even when it's wrong. Yeah, and also a note to myself, I should be flipping the canvas way more. Flipping the canvas is a really good thing to do. But yeah, I'm being lazy. What to talk about here? I can see that some of the colors are off. The skin is a little bit dead. I'm probably going to fix that pretty soon. Yeah, I've got a bit of a background worked in, just to give me an idea of what like what color the ambient light will be. Oh yeah, you can see my epic line drawing. Oh boy, yeah. It'd be even worse if I tried to record that. It's OBS lags my computer for some reason, and it's okay for painting because it doesn't really matter. You know, I'm not really going for a nice clean stroke. It's a little bit annoying, but for line drawing, it's intolerable. Like the line is lagging like at least half a second behind the pen. It's infuriating. So like on my second monitor, I've actually got like a bunch of faces with kind of like a similar, some of my own pieces, a few other pieces done by other people that have a similar lighting setup, and that just kind of like helps me figure out, like, you know, the face is a very complex form. You know, it's not like you're painting a sphere, or like it's kind of like, you know, it can be a little bit complicated. So if you've got any kind of reference, you know, my face is not is not similar enough to these faces really to use as good reference. And yeah, just, you know, just use whatever you can to give you help as far as lighting goes. Like sometimes I'll use 3D. Like you know, if I'm really struggling to render something, I'll bang it out in ZBrush, bring it into Blender, light it, you know, the way that I want, and I'll use that as a reference. Or sometimes I'll even like, you know, like I'll even just take a screenshot. I've done that with armor before. I like take a screenshot of the armor in Blender, and I'll just paint over the top of it. It actually works pretty well, surprisingly. Like if you paint over it, yeah, like it gives you a good place to start. Because, you know, drawing from your imagination is hard enough as it is. Like, take whatever means necessary to get it done. So yeah, I'm thinking about like, what is it, Fresnel? I don't know, like with reflective objects, you get they'll like start to reflect the environment as, like, you know, as it curves around, and it's like parallel with your eye. Once you get to like the edge of a curved surface, like on those legs, those cylindrical legs, like as it gets to the edge of those curved cylinders, it'll start to become very, very reflective of the environment, so it'll light up. And it's a good excuse for me to like give a bit of a, like, I guess, a rim light. So, man, hair. I cannot stand painting hair. I'm so bad at it. I spent so long trying to paint this hair, and, you know, I ended up scrapping it 2 or 3 times and restarting, and fuck this shit, man. It's so annoying. I kind of got there in the end, but, like, god damn it. Yeah, I don't know. Someone once told me to think about it as like ribbons. Think about hair like ribbons, which definitely helps, but it's still like, still something that I really struggle with. Yeah, and like, and think about it as like a little bit metallic, like not 100% metallic, but, you know, and you get like this in 3D. You call it, God, I'm gonna have to Google it. Hang on. It's like fuck. Hang on, I'm gonna Google it. Sorry, it's very unprofessional. Anisotropy? What the? Anisotroposity. Okay, yeah. Well, basically, that's what hair does. Is it has like a band running around, because like you get like the same thing on like metal frying pans that have like tiny little grooves running around the side of it. Like you get this weird banding of the highlight, and that's what's happening with hair. Is because like hair runs in a direction. You've got like these tiny little It's the same thing that's happening with the hair as what's happening with like the grooved frying pan. It's like you get this banded highlight. You see it in anime rendering, like they'll stylize it a lot, and it looks good. Yeah, like it's like a cheat way of showing that its hair is having like that anisotropic band. Yes. So I'm still, I'm still figuring out what am I going to do with the hair. God, what a nightmare. Like I've noticed like some, I had some reference up that had like, kind of like a weird glow behind the hair, and I thought that looked quite cool, but I don't think it really worked in this instance because there's already a light background. Yeah. So it's better to just have like, leave it dark, I think. But I haven't figured that out yet. Oh yeah, and God, my control key. The control key off my keyboard stopped working at some point during this process. Absolutely infuriating. Because so many of my shortcuts are with the control key, so like it kind of half worked. Like I'd have to push it down really, really hard for it to activate. Bloody annoying. Paid a fortune for this keyboard. Yeah, I'm trying to do the same thing with the hair on the right hand character as I was with the center character, like, putting that glow. There's an artist who does that a lot. I don't know how to say his name. Guweiz, Guweiz. But yeah, I really like his work, and he often puts like a glow behind the hair. It works quite well, and it's working on the character on the right, I think, or it will work on the character on the right because the background is dark behind her. So yeah, that's the right call. So like with painting the face, I won't worry about, like, you've got the color zones of the face, like red through the center, kind of yellowish in the top, and then bluish green down the bottom. Less so for women, like that bluish green down the bottom is more for like the 5 o'clock shadow of dudes. But yeah, like they're kind of like the color zones of the face. If you Google color zones of the face, you'll get it immediately. But like, I won't worry about any of that when I first start rendering, because like that's just making things way too complex, way too early. I'll just worry about the forms, a few colors of varying from black and white, and I'll just render it like that. And then after that, what I'll do is I'll go in with like an overlay layer with a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow and a little bit of green or blue if it's a male character, and then I'll like start glazing in those color zones of the face. I don't know. Yeah, for me, at least, if I try and tackle it all at the, at the very start, it's just too hard. Better to break it up. Just worry about getting the forms right first. Here we go. I'm experimenting with some weird stuff that, like, didn't really work. Like, it worked in the thumbnail, but then when I put it into this, like, I don't know, not a fan of the drapery. Yeah, didn't work. But like, that's how it goes sometimes. It's like, yeah, it's like experimentation. This piece was a freaking nightmare. I thought it was going to be so simple, and yeah, like some pieces just don't, like, oh, here we go. So yeah, like I've done something different with the background. Like basically I went in onto Google and found like a bunch of like royalty-free abstract neon photos, just bashed them together in the background, put it on hard light, and called it a day. That's pretty bad, but like, whatever. I don't know, it looks better than where I was going before. I also find painting female faces a lot more time consuming, a lot more difficult than male faces, just because you can get away with a lot with male faces. Like, you can leave the edges really rough, you can have like a bit of asymmetry, it can be a little bit scuffed, and like it's okay, or at least like to me it looks okay. But if like, especially if you're trying to paint an attractive female, if it's a little bit wonky, it really shows. It's a lot more time consuming for me. So I've got I've decided to go with like a bit of a purple side light, like coming from the left and hitting them on their right. So something to consider is like how, with the skin, is like how much are they, how much is the skin perspiring? That'll like dictate how reflective it is. If you want them to look like a little bit sweaty, then like crank up the reflectiveness of the skin. And I'm constantly like messing around with curves and hue and saturation. Because yeah, I want to make sure that they, the characters match the background matches the characters, the colors all are like make sense, kind of. I guess they're not completely realistic, but I don't want to have some super saturated color that just couldn't possibly exist in that light environment. But then again, this is like quite stylized, so these colors probably wouldn't exist in real life if they were in like a blue lit neon environment. So I don't know, just mess around with the hue and saturation and the curves until it looks right. Oh, yep, the hair glow. Yeah, so like something good to do is like make the like on females, or like attractive females, is to have the top of the eyelid quite reflective. I guess that's a product of makeup. It's like that eyeshadow, that is actually quite reflective. And also like that little bit of the eye, like the little bit where the cheek meets the corner of the eye, that is like a very reflective part of the face. So that's gonna catch light, even the tiniest bit of light. I don't know, I normally try and make that a little bit lighter than the rest of the face, depending on the light direction, of course. Yeah, this is a bit of a weird one in terms of composition, because normally you'd want that down light that's hitting her hand, because her hand isn't really the focal point. Her head is the focal point. But I don't know why, but I just didn't want the strongest light to be hitting her head, because like she's already got quite light hair to begin with, and that backlight is hitting the top of her head. So if that really strong downlight was behind her head, it would just like drown out. It would just be too much light stuff in one area. the light on top of her head wouldn't have any, you know, anything to contrast with. I don't know, yeah. At the end, what I'm going to do is like blur all of that background, because like as you can see, all the edges are really sharp in the background, and we don't want that. Hard edges are going to draw the eye, and you know, nothing in the background is particularly noteworthy. We don't want the background to be drawing attention. So at the end, I'll turn off all the characters' layers. Control Alt Shift E, which is I think the default shortcut for duplicate everything on the canvas onto a new layer. And then I'll just go filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Yeah. And that kind of like just puts a little bit of a blur on everything. And then I'll bring the characters back in. Because if you leave the characters on and do that, then like you're going to get, it's going to copy the characters as well. More hair. God, I need to do some studies of hair. I think that'll probably make my life a lot easier. My workflow at the moment for painting hair is kind of just noodle at it until it looks right, which is probably not the best way of going about it. It also doesn't help that, like, I don't know, with hair, there's so many different ways of painting hair. Like every style seems to have its own specific way of painting hair. Like if you look at Riot art, like they'll have like a very specific way of painting hair, and then like, I don't know, look at more like gritty, realistic stuff, and it has that has like a very different way of painting hair. Oop, I've gone AFK, it looks like, and left the recording going. I'll try and skip ahead to a point where I'm actually doing something. So yeah, if you guys have like any questions, anything at all to do with my process, anything, let me know. You know, you can DM me, you can leave it in the comments. I mean, that'd help the algorithm, so I'd probably prefer it if you left it in the comments, but whatever, you know, I've always got time for people who are curious. I do a lot of experimenting in the piece, like, yeah, like here I'm, you know, I played around with some different ideas and they didn't work out. That's just how it is sometimes. But like eventually, hopefully, I'll find something that works. Yeah, like here, you know, like I was putting a bunch of different things in, and then I realized, you know what? God, what are these things called? Oh God, it's gonna drive me crazy. The straps, oh God, what is it called? This is terrible. Overalls. Fail me, Google. Ah, whatever. You know what I mean. Yeah, so I was playing around with like some different ideas, because I wanted to put like some music notes in there. I actually ended up getting rid of them at the end because I thought it was just too noisy, and yeah, I don't know, I didn't really like them that much. Thought like, oh, you know, I'll add some movement to the piece, but yeah, really work. I do kind of fix it at the end. If anyone's got any tips on painting hair, if anyone wants to give me an overpaint, please help me. Putting some fashionable rips to the pants. Never go wrong there. Making sure that the lips are a little bit more reflective than, or actually a lot more reflective than the rest of the face, especially because there's lipstick on there. Oh yeah, and at the end of well, actually towards the tail end of the pieces, I'll throw. I'm changing. First things first, I'm changing the face, changing the mouth to be open. Yeah, I don't know. Made more sense, I think. But yeah, no, towards the tail end of the piece, I'll throw an overlay layer on top of the whole thing, the very top of the layer stack, and I'll set the edges to be just a little bit darker, like, you know, for like a 40, you know, on the hue saturation thing. So like a little bit darker around the edges, and then like maybe brighten up a few key areas of interest, like 55, 60. And yeah, no, that generally, I do that for pretty much every illustration, I think. Kind of makes like a little subtle vignette on the piece. And like you can also like tweak colors a little bit, so it's good. It's a good thing to do. Oh, right there. That is the worst thing that will ever happen to you. Well, no, not really, but it's very annoying. It's like, if you alt-click on a layer, I do that a lot, it isolates the layer, which is very handy. It's a great feature in Photoshop. Alt-click a layer and it solos that layer. But if you touch anything else, so like you alt-click the layer and then you alt-click it again to get all the other layers back. And like in this piece right here, I've got, God, like probably about 100 layers in there. It's pretty disgusting. So I alt-clicked a layer there, and I accidentally clicked something else, and then I can't alt-click that same layer again to get all the other layers back. So I have to like go through all the layers and turn them on and like figure out which ones are trash layers and which ones, you know, like. One embarrassing thing I had to look up for reference is phone. Didn't know what a phone looked like. Yeah, so at some point I'm going to notice that the level, like the values in the background are all kind of like a bit all over the place. I'm going to try and I'll fix that at some point. At least I hope I do. you can see like the points where I've like taken a break, like go and like get a glass of water or whatever, and it's always while I'm rendering hair, I'm like looking for any excuse to just, I don't want to do it, I don't want to be there. I'm just yeah, oh god. yeah, I'm experimenting like with some purple highlights in the hair, and yeah, no, I'm gonna take that out in a second, I hope. I added like a lighten layer in between the foreground, like those silhouette hands, and because like they were kind of dominating, or no, there wasn't any separation between the hands in the foreground and the characters in the midground. And there we go, we're at the end. God, I feel like I just rambled about crap for probably about 40 minutes, oh my god. And I didn't really impart anything useful. I'm so sorry, I'm terrible at this. Yeah, if you've got any questions, please let me know. I'm sure there's a million things that I didn't cover. But anyway, that's the piece. Thanks for watching, and